You don't want to miss a moment of today's show. It went so fast because I'm covering what's happened in Europe, what's happening in South Korea, what's happening in Syria right now, what's happening with, we're going to cover in today's broadcast how the left is actually, I got the game plan on how they plan on mobilizing mass protests against Trump and how they're going to work the deportation issue as the moment they galvanize to create the overthrow of America. They're going to create what they call the Freedom Firewall. I'm going to give you the inside report. We've got it here because you need to know about it. Between now and the inauguration is a time of real serious prayer. And I'm serious about this because it was one battle to secure the cabinet and the election. It's going to be another battle to move inland. It's like we landed on Normandy, but we haven't gone to Berlin yet. So this broadcast is going to cover it in 28 minutes. You don't want to miss a moment of it. But in the middle of this, I got to do shopping. Every day I'm in here and I'm running other nonprofit companies and I come back in here. I don't want to quit doing my broadcasting, but I'm thinking, what am I going to get for people? I've got an answer for you. So my wife is like a health fanatic. If you know, she's the curator in the museum. She got me getting her a biometric chamber or something for Christmas. It's for oxygen. And anyway, so I'm over there and she's a former makeup artist and she loves these flower-based, plant-based, this stuff that takes the wrinkles out of your face and takes it off your neck. And I'm a guy. And she said to me, Lance, I want you to start using this. And normally it's like, yeah. But anyway, every night I do my little ritual. It's like a 6-step. I know it's silly, but I'm telling you, look at how nice I look. Nice, the nice glow. And the creases are going away. It's amazing. It's called Raman. And for like $100, it's the perfect gift. Ladies, get it for your husband. Tell him Lance uses it. And it's a women's product, I guess. The women in my world are all telling me about it. That's how my wife got a hold of it. But it's for men too. The secret for men is, men can be as vain as women, but we don't like to look like we are. So that's why guys don't make up lines for guys. But yet on TV, man, they're making me up all the time. But guess what? I'm not wearing any makeup today. This is the all-natural, healthy look. Get a hold of it. Go to lancewallnau.com/Riemann. You'll be so glad you did the 6-step ritual that makes your face vibrant and glowing and takes all the lines out and slims you out and makes you look younger. lancewallnau.com/Riemann. The perfect gift for your wife. The perfect gift for your husband. Transform the way you look with this product. Let's get into today's show. We've got drones that are now flying with the potential of being government drones that are surveilling desperately in search of something. And I've played some information that's come from various sites that you guys have, that you've been sending me, that are raising the alarm that they could be looking for radiation footprints for a dirty bomb. The possibility that there could be coordinated series of attacks on the United States coming up. We've had open borders, terrorists coming through. We don't know in the millions that have gotten through there what we've allowed into the United States. If you're like me, you're saying, I'm so optimistic, so surprised at what's been going on that's positive since the election, that I'm almost positioned, almost like a spiritual warfare stance, like something's coming that's disruptive. The devil's real, folks, and he just got pushed back, but he's organizing, and he's going to organize against this administration, against the United States, against the righteous prayers of millions of saints from around the world who have prayed for this election, because they know that as America goes, so goes the world. And the world is gone in some dangerous places. We don't cover it because the American virus, if you don't mind me saying so, is our narcissistic self-preoccupation. So we get just absorbed in our own little news, and then stuff that isn't even news gets into the cycle. And you're like me, you can't help it. You're exposed to it, you start thinking that's important, then you find out it's not important. Our job on this show is to focus on getting out of that cycle of the seduction of a news cycle and going to what's actually happening. I want to play for you now a clip, which will be about 2 minutes, of what the left is doing, has been working on, preparing for, in order to undermine the results of this election. And I go to, how many millions of dollars does she get paid? Rachel Maddow, one of the most overpaid deception factories is MSNBC, from Russia to Trump's, rapes to felony convictions and now. But nevertheless, they tell on themselves and they tell us what they're up to. And this part isn't fake news. This is them revealing their own blueprint. I want you to watch this.
When you talk to regular Americans who aren't lawyers, who aren't people who are engaged in this fight in a practical, paid to do it as part of their job kind of way, and you hear people feeling intimidated, feeling overwhelmed by the pace at which we're getting sort of alarming news about the extremism of their plans, what do you tell them about the prospects for holding line?
Well, local governments, the state attorneys general, the governors, the mayors, we have this whole plan around a firewall for freedom, we call it. The idea that these local officials can really play an important role in stopping the worst of the government abuses.
How so?
Well, for instance, when they're going to try to detain and deport all these hundreds of thousands, up to 1 million people, that's an operation that they have the legal power to do the raids, but the logistics. And they're going to need mayors and governors or city councils to either give them access to police officers or not, jails. Where are you going to house all these folks? Right? And so part of what we're doing is we're preparing executive orders and we're organizing our folks to put pressures on elected officials so they don't roll over. They should sever these relationships they have with the federal government on immigration enforcement. They should make sure that our prisons and our jails are off limits. They should begin to think about what actions they could take to pardon immigrants who have a criminal record because they drove on a suspended license. Well, let's take them out of harm's way.
They could do that now.
Let's commute.
They could do that now in the transition.
Yes. And so part of what we got to do is we got to swarm our allies in some of these places. And even in red states, you have some blue mayors. And so there's a whole game plan for this. And I think part of what we're trying to do is breaking it down. What can be done by the courts and lawyers? What can be done by citizens? What can governors do? What can mayors do? And really have a game plan for that.
When people look at the fact that there haven't been large-scale protests thus far, the way there were pretty soon after the election in 2016, I tend to look at that and think the American people are smart. People are marshaling their resources.
They're waiting.
Choosing for the right moment.
Exactly.
Do you see it the same way, or do you see it? Okay.
When he starts deporting all these folks, ripping apart communities, the idea that you're never going to be able to move that many people through the immigration system without ripping apart citizens and immigrants. It's going to rip the basic fiber of our lives. And that's when people are going to say, oh, that's not what we bargained for. We got to turn out.
Well, there you have it. They're telling you that. And what I love about the Democrats, they're as gifted as Lucifer when it comes to labeling the apple on the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's delightful to the eyes, and it promises to make you wise. It's called the firewall for freedom. Ironically, had Trump lost this election, I was prepared to take our program, which is called Firewall of all things. See, it's like the devil takes whatever's true and it, boom, perverts it. So they're firewall for freedom. And then you listen to the strategy he's got. Hey, we've got to get a hold of our blue states, our blue elected mayors, and we have to put a circle around our jails and our prisons. It's off limits. Do you hear what they're saying? You can't deport criminals out of the jails and out of prisons and take them out of the country. Oh, no. There are criminals and our prisoners. Illegal, yes, but we're protecting them because you're tearing apart the fabric. Then they leak it over in such a sophisticated subtlety. So you're tearing apart the fabric of families. No. We got 10, 15, 20 million people that have come here. And wherever there's gangs, cartels, wherever there's sex trafficking, wherever there's criminal lone wolves that got let out of asylums and let out of prisons in Venezuela and worked their way into this country, they've got to be taken out. And this is what, and I love this. Where's the large-scale mass protests that we're waiting for? Marshaling our powers to take to the streets. Well, it's going to be a very important moment to frame the large-scale mass protest as being against the will of the people, against the elected representation of a mass movement in this last election, moving in a certain direction that will be defied and disrupted and obstructed by the organized entities that controlled the chaos of the George Floyd riots, the Antifa riots. They're ready and poised. They're on payrolls trying to vindicate why they're funded in the first place. I know whereof I speak. I was at the inauguration in 2016, and I watched what wasn't covered by the news when limousines were firebombed and lit on fire and businesses and storefronts were broken down. Washington, D.C. is one of the most strangely schizophrenic commercial districts in America. When the Republicans are in office, they pull down all the hurricane weather stripping, all of the plywood they've got blocking their windows. They know there's going to be no destruction. But when the Democrats are in town and they're mad, they're all boarding up their windows, getting ready for the anarchy that they vote for, by the way. It's a strange kind of schizophrenia. So what Rachel Maddow was saying is not the quiet part out loud. She's saying, we need the mass protests. Where are they? Well, I think our job is to make sure that they look stripped now of their window dressing, like organized, funded anarchy to disrupt the orderly recovery of the United States. Meanwhile, Speaker Johnson, he's got a tough job. He's a good Christian brother. He's a likable guy. But he is not a Churchill. He is not someone who is articulating for the American people the danger of our economic situation. You understand that France just had a massive upheaval politically because they are broke. There's $300 trillion of debt floating around the globe. And countries are rupturing right now because there's no way of sustaining it. A report just came out in the Trudeau administration that they are at a fragile breaking point economically. Canada, well, of course, you've got your Trudeau policies there, your woke economics. And what their report says, and he just had a major executive and a deputy in his cabinet just come out with a statement. I'm responsible for the economic report, and I'm telling you, we're in a critical state. When Donald Trump met with Trudeau, you know why Trudeau went down there. It's because Trump talked about a 25% tariff. It would wipe out the Canadian economy. And we got a lot of Christians, a lot of friends of ours, a lot of conservatives that are watching from Canada. This could be the necessary pain to deal with the craziness you've got in your government. You see, Trump told Trudeau, we have an $80 billion or $100 billion trade deficit, meaning you're unfairly gouging us for $80 billion. I won't put up with that. Not with your woke attitude and your pontificating about how you are for. America didn't elect Kamala Harris because it's a racist nation that doesn't want women, and I stand for women. Well, all right, Justin. Trump said, you're going to pay up that $100 billion. So Trudeau goes, we couldn't. It would cripple our economy. Trump goes, so basically I have to cripple my economy in order to underwrite your crippled economy. I don't think so. Why don't you just become the 51st state? We'll just annex you and we'll work it out like we have to do with California. And Trudeau nervously says, you're joking, right? Trump puts out a meme with the Canada flag next to him as he scans the horizon of the great nation of Canada. And he's letting him know, no, you need to get your country in order. Remember something, folks. There's a continuing resolution going on passing in Congress right now, and Speaker Johnson, who is really the representative of the Democrats as well as Republicans down there, is kicking the can down the road. Is there an economic crisis coming in the first quarter of Trump's administration? We'll be right back and talk about that.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Lance to save big on all of Mike's best products. That's promo code Lance.
And so welcome back to the Lance Wallnau Show. By the way, you can keep on following us at lancewallnau.com/podcast. We do this every day. I do a 1-hour segment for my friends at Real America's Voice once a week. I don't know what day it's on now. It was on Saturday, then it was on Sunday, then I think I saw it on Friday also. But regardless of that, it's always going to be a unique, dare I say, prophetic biblical perspective of current events, because this book talks more about what's happening in these days than you realize. History with Syria just falling is all going into Ezekiel prophecy and various other prophets. And I'm going to do a broadcast just dedicated to the unfolding prophetic narrative of the Middle East, Israel, the United States, and the Middle East in the last days. But there's no doubt about it. You're living in a time when you've got to have these pieces on the chessboard to understand what the great game is, because Donald Trump isn't just there for the United States. He's there for a world order that is trying to restrain the forces of Marxism that have gotten into the vital organs of Western civilization that are still there in our government. Why do you think Donald Trump is putting in the kinds of radical reformers he's putting into government right now? Because each of them is tasked in that labyrinth of the education system with $1 trillion of debt, funding teacher union propagandizing of your children. He wants to dismantle it. He has a problem. 60% of Americans don't want to see the Department of Education dismantled. They don't realize you have your own state Department of Education you're paying for, plus the federal government, and the federal government is an ideologic propaganda factory for critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion, which are all the buzzwords, kind of like your freedom firewall, to produce Marxist programming in your children, only using woke cultural issues. The Marxists couldn't create a class warfare between the poor and the rich because America has a robust middle class, an economy that allows a ladder for potentially going from low income to middle income. And you make your most money in the American system when you're 58 to 60 years old and older. That's your prime earning period. And so they couldn't dismantle America based on the model of haves and have-nots. So they created the Olympics, where if you're an aggrieved, victimized people group, that's how you organize. You're the suppressed, transgender community, less than 1% of the American population. Doesn't matter. We're going to change this on-ramp in all schools. In your classroom's going to have your little LGBT flags and your rainbow wristbands, and we're going to have activists coming in. What is this multi-billion-dollar budget in the U.S. government and in the education department for consultants and training, which is taking their curriculum and weeding it in and weaving it into every level of the government? That's why Trump has basically put flamethrowers at the top of these institutions to burn down that toxic root system that has been planted for the last 15 to 20 years. Jesus taught the parable. He said, this while men slept, an enemy went and sowed tares among the wheat, and in the fragile systems of America freedom, there were tares, there was poison planted. Al-Qaeda was able to accomplish 9/11. They were able to succeed because they took advantage of the porous nature of our trusting free system. And they were able to get on planes. Now you get groped and scoped and you get your water bottle taken through at TSA. You got a whole police regimen. Whenever you want to get on a plane, why did that happen? Because our freedoms were taken advantage of. And so we have to go to a police state in certain areas to protect ourselves from the abuse that comes through our freedoms being manipulated and used against us. And then the trade-off comes. Well, what happens when you start to lose your freedoms? Well, you have to defer to the state to protect you. And that's dangerous if your state becomes Marxist, because that's what they want. They want the collapse so that they can seize power. And where I want you to think about this is as we go to this, the issue of taxation. I want you to think about this. You don't hear this in a typical sermon. But when I read about Luke chapter 1 and chapter 2, it was because Caesar Augustus came into power and he had to pay the bills for all of Rome's expansion. And so part of that was a census was required, and all the world had to go back that was in the Roman Empire back to the hometown where you were registered. The census was in order to track you for taxation. So everyone had to go back to their hometown in order to be properly registered so the Roman government could do the equivalent of putting a tag mark on you, or a mark on your forehead eventually, in order to track all the citizens, in order to get from them and extract from them the money that they needed to run the empire. And it was in that beautiful story where the census is being taken, and Pontius Pilate is here, and Caiaphas is there, and Caesar Augustus is here, and Mary and Joseph had to go down because he was from Bethlehem, and that was for the house of origin, so they had to go there to re-sign up for the census so they can go back to Nazareth and be properly taxed. It's interesting how the system goes. What was the American Revolution about? Taxes. What was the French Revolution about? Taxes. What do you think is going to happen with $300 trillion worth of floating debt around the global economy if we continue to have leadership like Speaker Johnson, who says we want a continuing resolution for the $35 trillion of stupid money we're paying for stupid stuff that we don't even need? And Trump's coming in and going, man, Elon, Vivek, go to work on that. We have got to pare this down. I did a post last night on a slightly more jovial holiday note, and it was a meeting with one of the top banking investor guys from Japan, who's a friend of Trump's. Comes down to Mar-a-Lago. Oh, Mr. President, I don't want to be accused of being racist, so I won't try to do an Asian accent, but he goes, we have $100 billion. We're putting into the infrastructure of economics for the United States $100 billion to produce 100,000 jobs. I don't know the math on that, but that's not very effective. Nevertheless, $100 billion to produce 100,000 jobs. So while Trump is congratulating him at Mar-a-Lago, he has a little film crew there broadcasting it. He says to him, why don't you make it 200 billion? The poor guy. I have it on my Facebook page. I don't know if it's on my Twitter X account yet. But the poor guy goes, I don't know if I can do 200. I can do 100, but yeah, you could do it. You can afford it. All right, well, I will do my best to get you 200 billion. Trump takes his hand, shakes, goes, 200 billion it is. He closes the deal right there. Another 100 billion he gets out of Japan. Trump means business with Trudeau. Trump means business with Mexico. He means business with China. Then this hilarious head game he's playing. China, the fentanyl factory. China that just published a list of all target bases that are in the U.S. Navy that they would hit if they go to war with us. China that is actually trying to work with the BRICS nations to undermine the American dollar as the global economy and to cripple us. Trump invites President Xi to come to his inauguration party. And you got to know that in China they're thinking, whoa, what do we do? I mean, this is not an ordinary guy. He's going to do what he's got to do to protect America. He's providentially prayed in. Go to your Isaiah 45. As I prophesied, mocked for it since 2016, this is a modern-day Cyrus. By the way, we have a modern-day Cyrus in El Salvador. We have a modern-day Cyrus in Argentina right now. We have a modern-day Cyrus who's trying to get back into power in Brazil. And I've got major meetings in Brazil, meeting with political leaders and leaders of the megachurch, they're looking at the American model of restoring the vitality of freedom and ousting their Marxist enemies. South Korea is having a convulsion. You can cover it in the news right now. Oh, martial law declared. Why? Christian, conservative president put in without the church's real wholehearted support. Got 1 million Christians there in one church. Young Cho's church. Millions of believers totally not mobilized to support their government, education, and business. And so the devil comes in with communist activators, same progressive nonsense we've got in the United States, taking to the streets, shutting down his government, impeaching him, impeaching his cabinet. He declares martial law to stop it. He has to pull back from martial law. Now he has to go apologize to the country. Read his letter. I posted it on Facebook. I'll post it on Twitter, too. You guys need to go to @Lance Wallnau on Twitter. I picked up like 10,000 new people in the last month just because. Go there because every day I can't help it. It's like I need to get delivered from this. I go there every day and I can quickly post stuff. And I write back and I comment. Go to @LanceWallnau.com. No, it's @LanceWallnau, not .com. You can go to LanceWallnau.com/podcast. But the Twitter account. All right, we're going to go there to the Twitter account. I want you to go there now if you're there with me. And I want you to take a look at what's happening in Europe as Marxism is now laying hold of UK, the great bastion of freedom that gave us Wilberforce, that gave us Wesley, that gave us Whitefield, that gave us the very impulse of Western freedom and revival and awakening in the United States. They've collapsed. As Churchill warned. I want you to go to that. Go to asset 3, number 3. I want to talk about the UK thought crimes. Winston Churchill warned. I've been studying Churchill lately. Churchill warned, he says, I declare to you in the 1940s, as the country was shifting towards a socialism that today will lock you up for thought crimes in the United Kingdom. I declare to you from the bottom of my heart that no socialist system can be established without a political police. This is how close we were with this last election. It would have clamped down on us with merciless severity. Anyway, Churchill says, many of those who are advocating socialism or voting socialist today will be horrified at this idea. That's because they're short-sighted. It's because they do not see where their theories inevitably will lead them. Speaking like a statesman prophet, Churchill says, no socialist government conducting the entire life and industry of the country could really afford to allow free, sharp, violently worded expressions of public discontent. They would have to fall back on some form of Gestapo. No doubt very humanely directed in the very first instance, and this is designed to nip public opinion in the bud. It would stop criticism, just like in North Korea, like in Russia, like in China. And he says that those civil servants would no longer be servants and no longer be civil. I can't believe we're out of time. All I can tell you is if you're like me and you still got to go do your Christmas shopping, get a hold of this powerful 6-step process for your face. You men, you're going to look wonderful. Trust me, take all the lines out of your neck and everything. LanceWallnau.com/Riman, R-I-M-A-N. It's going to transform the way you look. And even an old dog can learn a new trick. And now I'm using this every single night. I feel better and I look better. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.